in the 20th century. Okay, so from after the World War has started, from that period onwards, after the end of the World War has started, so from that uh, period of time, we tend to see how this relations has been studying and how this relations with the other countries has been carried out. So we tend to see this has been developed in the 28th century. And yeah, the post world war period, uh, yeah, before the we have two world wars, which is first and the second world war. So after the world war one, we tend to see that this period was the beginning of a systematic study. From here onwards, we see the international relations were studied in a very systematic procedure here. And after the founding of the chair of international relations politics in the year 1919, uh, in the University College of Wales, which is there in England, it has done a lot of academic and research studies on the international relations here. So, if we see, according to Kenneth Thompson, he is giving us the knowing of the growth of international relations as a discipline here. Discipline is nothing but a study. Okay. So, that study has been passed to four stages. He is giving us that this international relations has started with the study in the fourth. He is giving us the fourth stages where this international studies has been grown here. So if you see in the first stage, this first stage is where you tend to see it has been till the First World War. We can see the first stage, and the studies were actually based upon the historical context here. Okay. There were a lot of diplomatic efforts. All this diplomatic. Now, what is diplomacy here? Diplomacy is nothing but how you are managing and arranging the situations, or how you are able to manage the situations in the international perspective here. Okay. Yeah. So how you are doing the adjustments, all those relations that you are carried upon the various other nations, not only with the one nation, with the other nations as well. Okay. So in the second stage, we tend to see this stage is immediately after the first world. So first stage was till the first world war, and this is the second world. The second stage is after the first world war. Okay. So here in this stage, if we see, the studies of international relations has been focused on the um what's it has been focused on the current affairs, the situations that were happening after, as soon as the First World War has ended, how the situations has been carried on and how it has been changed. Because after World War, the situations were it has become lot of um, clumsy, and there was a lot of tension as well, we can see. So it was focused on the current affairs here, and it did not develop as an integral view, the international studies here. So if you see the third stage, it was covering the interwar period here, and later after the war as well, you can see, and which this has been developed as a legal moralistic approach. Okay, here you can see a legality and a morality aspect here in the international institutions. And that is what, in this period only, there was a institutionalization, means there were the institutions. That institutions has become the main focus of the studies here. So these institutions also you will understand in the coming chapters here. Okay. So there was an idealistic view of Woodrow Wilson. Okay, what did he say? His studies are mostly focused upon the um, his spirit of the establishment of international organization, as because the situation of world war has become a lot of tension, lot of chaos around the world here. So here he wanted to have a main spirit for the establishment of an international organization. So where we can see there was a League of Nations. All these bodies were made to look a check on the nations, to make a peacekeeping and all activities. Okay. So all this you can study in the coming units here. So the fourth stage that has witnessed a very new approach here. So within that you can see the study of forces here. Okay, the forces and the influences, all this has been determined the internationals through the foreign policies. Now what are foreign policy? Every country has its own policy within its international arena. How and well it is carrying on its activity, keeping on its activity with the other nations, keeping on its national interest in view, how they are very well carrying on its um, relations, and how they are keeping up their sovereignty as a prime factor, and how they are making the policies in relation to the other countries. Here is called as a foreign policy here. So here also you see in the fourth stage, there was a conflict. Solving of the conflicts has become the center of the study here, and in this way there was a approach which is called as a realism. Now what is realism? Realism is nothing but it has been studied with the um, it's a theory. It talks about how the power is been controlled, how there was a political struggle. Everybody is back of getting that power, power to be supreme, power to be sovereign. Here you can say power to be the superior in the world. So this realism talks about the current situation, or it's a theory that talks about the how the theory is considering the political struggle to get that power here. The struggle for getting the power is called as the realism. Okay. So if we say in this period of time, after the post second world war period, that has changed a lot of change in the orientations and the problems within the study of international relations. Here there was a lot of improvement in the science and technology, the decolonization. Now what is decolonization? As from a long period of time we were as for example take India was also a part of colony. We were under the Britishers. Similarly they were under other countries who were a part of other countries. Slowly all these nations started being independent. They have become the third world nations, or you can call it as a independent nations here. Okay, so that has been called as a decolonization, where there were no more colonies. You can see no more other country is ruling the another country here, so they were independent. So there was an economic interdependence as well, and there was a lot of national security problems. And because there were few countries were developing at that period of time, and there are few developed countries, so there was a problem with their national security as well, and the contemporary their present issues at present. What we have a issue of globalization here, and there is an environmentalism, and the terrorism. These are all a very big concern issues that that comes in the study of international relations only. Okay, so after that we also have the um, fifth stage. So there are few modern political analysts. They have given a more stages within the study of international relations. The previous four were given by the Kenneth here. So these are the other modern political analysis who have given more stages. So we are adding a fifth stage here. So in this fifth stage, you can see that the fifth stage has covered the period that is starting from the mid of the 60s to the 70s. Okay, mid of the 60s to the 70s here, and this is what this period is called as the post realistic or the behavioral stage here. Okay, post realistic or the behavioral stage here you can say. Okay, so this is also called as a behavioral stage. Why behavioral stage? The name itself talks you about the behavior. There was a how the nations are carrying their attitude, how they are behaving here talks about in this arena here. So here you can see there was a nation state concept that has begun to lose its character here. And the cold war, after as soon as the second world war has ended up, there was a period of cold war, which means the countries they were not directly attacking on each other, but slowly with the help of other countries they were slowly coldly they were carrying on their wars, which is called as a cold war here. Okay, so this cold war period has witnessed a period called detente. Okay, so there was a detente here. Detente is nothing but you are being a superpower, and where you are having a lot of weapons with you, and you are there anywhere, you are ready to get the war, or you are ready with the um Yeah, there was a detente, which means nothing but a relaxation of tensions. Okay, detente is nothing but the relaxation of tensions between the superpowers, we can see. And yeah, there was a this stage has also witnessed a very serious debate on the disparities, which means the differences between the divided world. So at that period of time, world was divided into two things. One is the developed and another is the developing. So that divide is called as north-south divide, we will call. Why north-south divide we are calling? Because in the north, in the northern hemisphere, there are few developed countries. And in the southern hemisphere, if we see, there are few poorer nations. Why are they poor nations here? Because they were once upon a time, they were the colonies to the Britishers here. Okay, so here the world was divided into the north, which means the developed, and the south, which means the poor nations here. So the promotion of this new international economic order by these third world countries, which means the newly independent countries, has become a very significant step, you can see in the international relations as well. So the sixth stage in this period talks about, it starts from the late 70s on the first half of the 80s, that has witnessed what the need of the third world countries, because they were newly independent, for their aspirations, for their concerns and the demands here. So here there were a lot of tensions that has been raised because of the ideological struggle between the superpowers. So what are the superpowers here? USA and the USSR are the superpowers. USSR is nothing but the today's Russia. So at that period of time, it was a Soviet Union, we can say. Okay, so this next stage, which is called as the seventh stage, which is the Michael, with the emergence of Michael Gorbachev. So Michael Gorbachev, he was the former president of the Soviet Union here. Okay, and he was the Russian politician here. Okay, so he was the one. Why is he famous here? This Michael Gorbachev is the one who has brought this Cold War to a peaceful end here. Okay, so it was the emergence of global Gorbachev to uh, have this power in the Soviet Union, and there was a new trend in the thinking, and there were a lot of efforts for changing nature of this international political life here. So there was a concept of what balance of interest and balance of power. Power has to be balanced here, and with the cooperation and the coexistence. Rather than a conflict, they went with the balance of power, because every country want to be the higher or the superior here. So with the interest as well. So there was a concept of balancing both of them here in this period of time here. Okay. So in the next stage, we can see that is a period from the early 90s to the present stage. We call it as the eighth stage. So there was a unipolar system, which means one that is dominated by the America, because that has caused all these Western European countries to integrate, to be a part of within themselves into the European community. And from that point of view only, we tend to see where the globalization process has been begun here. Okay. So if we go with the nature and um, definition of the international relations here. So this international relations has got number of titles. One is the international politics, another is the international or foreign affairs, next is the world politics or the global politics. So what are these? These are the relations between the nations here. Nations is nothing but the countries here. Okay, so generally, if we talk about the nature of study of international relations, it talks about the nature, how they are being. Nature is nothing but not that another nature. It's nothing but how are their attitudes. Okay, so here we see how these how they are behaving here and how they used to be. So it talks about how many of the aspects of this human life are possible, and how many policies, the strategies or programs are possible to attain the human cooperation internationally with the another country for the development of the human existence here, we can say here. Okay, so one of the definition is given. There are many definitions here. So one of the definition is given by Quincy Wright, where he talks about the international relations. That is nothing but that has been varied, where we can see there are a lot of different types of groups. Those groups are nothing but the nations, the states. There are many various nations, states, governments, peoples, regions, alliances, confederation, international organizations. Even there are a lot of industrial organizations and cultural organizations. What did they do? They have been dealt with the study of international relations here. Okay. So after that, we can see there is Palmer and Perkins who have defined this international relations as relations among the nation states and also with the international organizations, how you are carrying the relations. Okay, the name itself tells you the relations here. So even these relations include what a variety, a various of transnational relationships at different levels you can see, and also below the level of the nation state as well. And also still this is the main actor in the international community here. So with the scope of study of international relations, if we see the scope, this uh, would say this has begun after the First World War only. The areas of identifying it as a core, identifying it as a main, has begun after the First World War. Okay, especially after the Second World War. Okay, the international area study here. So first thing it talks about the state system. Now, what is state system? Every country, every state is a sovereign body, which means a supreme body. It is supreme with itself. Okay, so the international relations, it is based mainly based upon the study of the state system only, how the state systems are working here. So how the state or the political society is a sovereign body, which means a supreme body, and every nation has their own national interest, and that national interest has to be fulfilled here. That has to be completed here. Okay. So the as there is a state here in terms of its state's weakness and its strengths, or else alliance is nothing but how you are tying with the other country, how you are being a friend with the other country here, or enmity. You know, every country has their own enemies here, or with the neighborhood, so on everything, how they can be understood with the relations with the other states are studied under the state relations. So next we are having a general and a diplomatic history here. So every state has its own history, right? In terms of their diplomatic or the international relations. So it may having a friendship or it may having an enmity based upon what are the past situations that has been occurred here. Okay. So the efforts here, it lies with the promoting, it goes with the political leaders, how these political leaders are promoting or developing the relations with the other states here. Okay, so always from the background, from the till the present, we should analyze, we should know about their diplomatic history here. For example, you can talk about the India and Pakistan history. So long back, we are having a very good history with the Pakistan and with the India here. How we should understand here with their history here. Okay. So third thing talks about the relations in conflict and the cooperation here. So it depends upon the relations between several factors. What are those factors? Historical, geographical, social, religious, ideological, strategic, and the leadership here. Okay. So, in a way of cooperation, you can see in a way of cooperation and the conflict, these are the two sides of the same coin. Okay, cooperation is one side of the coin, and the conflict. In every of the international arena, if we see in the world, if we see, there is a one kind of cooperation, there is another kind of conflict. The recent conflicts that we are seeing in the news today, right? So these are the same coin of the called as their international relations here. So this international politics is nothing but there is no permanent friendship, there is no permanent enemy we can see in the international politics here. So with the power, the next is the sorry. So the next is the power here. With the power, we can say in after the Second World War period, there were a lot of scholars. There were many scholars. There were many schools of thought. Those has came to be called as the realist here, as I have explained about the realism. So they are the supporters of the realism here, and the supporter of realism is Morgan too. So this Morgan too, he is a very significant contributor within the realism perspective here. in the power politics here, where he says that this power can be understood as men's control over the minds and the actions of the other men. So, how a men from one country is controlling the minds and actions of the other country here. So, well, we can take an example of USA, where it wants to control the minds and the actions of the other countries here. Okay, so here also you can see as a political power, according to Morgan Q, he says that it is a mutual relations of the control here, of the authority between the people at a large. Here you can see it's nothing but power is nothing but how you are achieving your goals. That goals are nothing but the national interest here. Okay. So next is the international system. It is nothing but the state of condition, how the framework, the system is going on, how it is working, how it has been existed. And in ancient China, Mughal India, and the imperial Rome also, these are the few examples of the systems here. So you see, as there were a lot of classification, the differentiation of systems that has been got a new terminology, which means a new word here, which means a bipolarity or the multipolarity. Bi means two or the multi means many. Okay. So nations were divided into either two or either many parts here. And there was a regional subsystem which is called as South Asia or West Asia in the present day system, which we are calling now. Okay. South Asia is as then the West Asia is the where the war is going on. So the study of this international relations has been analyzed about various kinds of systems and within their subsystems too. And next is the geopolitics. So this geopolitics is nothing but the geo is nothing but the location, which means the space. Here it talks about the relationship between the space and the one second. The name itself tells you space is nothing but the location here. So how political, how this is been considered with a very broad, very wide political geography. um, it is mainly concerned with the geographical location here. And also Palmer and Perkins, they say that this is undoubtedly the struggle for space and power. Many of the countries, if we see here, they want to capture the territory of the other country, or the country wants to protect their own territory here. How the space, struggle for the space and power over the land, over the sea, because one country may have a half sea region or the half sea region with both of them dividing here. How the power is been divided, how the it is very important. The present example is the present case with the Iran Hormuz Strait. Also, you can consider here how the Iran is having a control over that Hormuz Strait, and how the other countries are having or facing a problem with the passage of the ship. You can see how the country is having sea region under their power. We can see here as an example here. Okay, that is where we can consider it as a geopolitics. So next we are having a war and peace. This war and peace, yeah, till the First World War and the Second World Wars, there is a lot of wars between the nations, which was a very common thing we can see. And the after the Second World War period, where there was a low intensify of the wars, where wars has been decreased, but there was a conflicting situations even today we can see. So the study of international relations here, that basically focuses on the aspect of the conditions, how these are leading to the conflict and the war on the sides here. So next is the conflict management and the conflict resolution. Conflict management and resolution is nothing but how you are managing a conflict with the other country, or how you are trying to solve the conflict here. So the main here, the study of internationals is to find solutions to the conflicts here you can see. And yeah, new techniques with the development of the lot of behavioral studies and the qualitative techniques, this study has been began to possibly focus on the different strategies how you are trying to have a conflict management and how you are trying to have a resolution. The next is the integration and the community approach here. So every state that falls into some kind of system here. Okay. So all these states or the state systems, they emerge as one international community. We are living in a one community, which is a international community, just like humanity or humankind. These international systems are also a kind of community here. So there are all kind of sort of differences and conflicts that has either, you can see there is a lot of friendly or there is a lot of positive relations with the another countries we can see, or there is a negative relations we can see, right? So this idea of the world state has been be very practical, but you see with the idea of this international community, that see as we are there in a community, as we are staying in a community, obviously we want for a peaceful living existent, and this international community seems very much more necessary and for and peaceful here. So the next is the ideology. So the ideology, if we see, it is generally taken in belief that makes us with the goals. Ideology. It is where the 20th century has been marked by a lot of developments and challengings with the conflict ideologies. There might be a lot of ideologies like liberalism, like capitalism, like socialism, like fascism, Nazism. These are all what? These are all the ideologies here. This might be one country might be supporting one ideology, another might be supporting one. It depends upon the value or the belief how you are giving, how you are attaining to get that things related to the socio-economic, political, and religious matters to solve their problems here. Okay. So next is the nationalism, colonialism, and the imperialism. So nationalism, we see this is one of the significant factor that has caused for the end of colonialism. With that nation, the love for the nation, the love for the country has made the end of the colonialism here. And it is also that colonialism has caused the and that same thing has also caused to the end of imperialism during this Second World War period as well, if you see. And yeah, the present era stands as the neo-colonialism or the neo-imperialism. Neo is nothing but the new here. Okay. So, and as newly independent countries, who are those newly independent countries? The Asia and Africa. They were newly independent countries, but these countries had a conditions that were created by whom? That were created by the developed countries. It was the developed countries who are ruled them. So, in the economic, military, and the political matter, so here the changing the meaning of nationalism has been changed up here. So next is the national interest. Within the national interest, we know every nation has its own interest, own goals, so that it could attain those goals in the form of how intense the situation is and how urgent the situation is. So next is the foreign policy. Yeah, every country has its own foreign policy, which means having a policy. I have already explained here, and where how you are this foreign policy is nothing but how it talks about the relations with the other nations, that how you are taking up into consideration. So next is the national charter. Now, what is this national charter? Every nation has their own charter. So that charter talks about their aspirations, their beliefs, and the political actions here, how they are coexisting. With coexisting is nothing but how they are living with each other here. Okay. So next is the policy making here. This policy making is one of the important factor, because it is where the behavioral studies, when it began to focus on the decision making process. Decision making is nothing but how you are making policies here. Okay, how a country is making policies in the foreign policy, how it is taking decisions based upon the foreign policy here. So that can be studied under the international relations here. And the next is the psychological factors. So there are a lot of psychological factors. It depends upon the psychology of the individuals, their leaders, their mentality of the whole public, everything. So that has to be considered. Their activities can contribute for the promotion of the international relations. The next are the economic factors. Demographic economic is nothing but the economic problems. Economy. This is the central with the nature and relations of the other countries. We can see it talks about how those Economic factors like tariff, exchange controls, international trade, balance of payments, foreign aid, all these things have with the mutual aid, because one country might be in a warlike situation or with a disaster situation, they might be getting help from the other countries. That is called as a mutual help. So these factors also contribute and determine the international relations. Next is the demographic factor, which means with the population. Overpopulation also has a lot of consequences, which means results in the lack of economic, social, and the other areas of life. You can see in these problems. When there are problem, nation cannot afford much to give them the proper economic, social aspects in their life here. So next is the military and the strategic actors. In the military and the strategic actors, if we see these, there are internal, which means within the country, or the external, with the outer part of the country, that can be a threat to one's security and the stability under the control, especially for the smaller and especially for the developing, because they are new, they cannot have a lot of um, good infrastructure within the military, or the good proper military, because they are newly developing, unlike the developed countries, so that they cannot given up. And if you see, this study of international relations in this respect is also unavoidable. Okay, so next we are having the alliance and groupings. Alliance is nothing but how you are going and shaking hands with the other countries, how you are forming groups. So you can say there are many groups, like group of 7, group of 20, like that. In the international politics, how they are existing in the national politics here as well. So these groupings, these alliances are not constant, but with the formation of these alliances with the other nations, it where we cannot ignore how one country, with the help of other country and with the help of two more countries, how they are forming the alliances, how well they are taking the initiatives here we can observe. So next there is a area and the regional studies. So after the World War, the focus was basically upon the area and the regional studies. Okay, area is nothing but where the history, the sociology, their language, how there has become a kind of topography, the geography, and their climate has been considered into the study of the international aspects. So next comes the globalization. The last comes the globalization and the economic regionalism. So in the 20th first century, in the 21st century, not the 20th, from the 28th century, which means 20, from that period of time, we see the international study has been studied. After the 21st century, we see this international studies has got more new aspects here. So in this period only, this USSR, as the world was divided into two super blocks. One block is USA and the another block is USSR. So in this period only, this USSR, Soviet Union, has been collapsed, and the civil wars in the Yugoslavia, the integration of the European Economic Community, they have become one. Okay, the European countries has become one here, and also the many other developments, latest developments we can see in the study of international relations that has come up, that has shown up a new dimensions with the international conflicts and the cooperation here. Okay, so these are all what are the few of the scopes of the international relations here. So if in this way, we have seen how the study of international relations has been passed to very different stages, and how in the present time this international relations has become a interdisciplinary and a multidisciplinary. Inter means within itself, and multi is a many here. So you see this international study, it includes a lot of diplomatic, the history, the international politics, the organizations, administration, international law areas, how they well are studied with the motivation of the interstate relations here. The main um, principle is the peaceful coexistence rather than the military pacts and the alliances. Before the Second World War, things were not going good. There was a chaos like the situation around the whole of the world here. There were a lot of the impact on many of the countries within their economy, within their food shortage, everything we can see. So after that, the peaceful of coexistence has been become the main principle here. So this is what your nature and the scope of international relations is. So our next unit is sovereign state and the non-state actors here. Okay. So within the sovereign state, yeah, you might have already got to know about what is a state, what is a nation state, what is sovereignty, and the system studies in your previous semesters here. Okay. So if we go and say the state is nothing but what? State is a definite geographical territory. Okay. Of which that state has what? That state has a people here. That state compromises of people. What those people are? Those people are organized politically here, and they are obedient to the authority who is been ruling to them here. Okay. So we see the world today is very much different from how it was before the 20th century, right? Things has been changed a lot, and many new developments have taken place in the international arena as well. So their interests, their capabilities, and the goals have been shaping the world politics here. Okay. So besides the states, there has been a parallel, the same kind of increase of other actors or the organizations, those are influencing this international relations here. And what are these? They are now, what are they doing? They are now challenging the role of the state. Now, what are those called as the non-state actors in the international relations here? Okay. So within the international system, you can see international system. What is a system here? A system is nothing but how it has been a combination, how it has been combined, okay, integrated with a component, and how there are a patterns of interactions, and how this idea is applied to the international society here. Okay, so international system has been defined by many of these scholars as what? A collection of independent entities. Okay, independent entities are being grouped here. Okay, they have been uh, m- made as a one here, which means a tribe, city states, nations, or empires, how they are interacting and how they are regularized with their process, we can see. So the structure of this international relations is based, primarily based upon the relations between the states here. Okay, so however, you see, besides this nation states, this international system consists of what? International organizations and the non-state or the private actors here. Okay. So it is because there is an increase in the interdependence. No state can want to be dependent on the other state, because it was a long time, it was a part of colony here. So it has become interdependence among all the actors in the international system that has become so much more extensive, we can say. So with the actors in the international relations, if we see, um, there are different actors who play. For, you can consider this world as a drama that you see, or a cinema that we see. Every character plays their own um, role here. So similarly here, you can consider this the actors in the drama, which means the world are many here. So here, everybody play their different roles here in the world stage here. Okay. So there are old actors, there are new actors, right? So alongside, you consider this as a drama. The same thing in the same thing that we see in a drama is been focused here as well. Okay, in the worldwide view here. Okay, so basically there are two types of actors. What are those two types of actors? State actors and the non-state actors. Okay, the state actors are states. Actors are state personified here, state said here. And the non-actors, who are these non-actors? State, whoever is making it genuine, making it known, is called as a state actor, whereas the non-state actor are the several other organizations here. Okay, um, those organizations include the non-state actors here. So after the second half of the yeah, after the second half of the 20th century, there was a lot of growth in the number of international actors we can see, because these actors were taken up into the consideration of issues relating to the trade, commerce, communication system, ethnicity, environmental politics, pollution, human rights, everything. They had a very influence on the world politics here. And even in the present day, if we see, there are a lot of certain issues that were considered as national or the local, that has become a global attention here. In the present day scenario, terrorism has been become a global attention, and the environmental pollution has become a global attention here. So according to Frankel, who is a theorist of international relations, he talks about that there is a possibility about the conceptualizing this reality of the world politics, and where it has major components. Okay, with its major components, if we are conceiving it as a system and its major components, so this system as well as the non-systems, what are they here? They are the subsystems here. He is what saying. So here, if we see the dominant actors, what they will do, since they are superior here, they will always try to influence. They will always try to manipulate the behavior of whom? The less political, the less powerful actors here. Okay. So we should, as a student, you should keep in your mind that all these actors, state and the non-state actors, the individuals, the states and the non-state organizations are very much active today here. But with their importance and the power, it differences. There is a differences with their power. There is a differences with their importance as well. Okay. This is what you have to keep up in your mind here. So next is the sovereign state here. So the sovereign, the main name itself tells you that it is a supreme state here. The state is the main central theme of the political science that we all know, right? So in the international relations, these states are what? These are the actors. These are the main critical actors, because they have a very sovereign power. They are having a very supreme power here. And it is, this sovereignty is one of the element that is differentiating or distinguishing the state from the other associations that are there in the society here. So historically, if we see, the period from 1450 to 1650, it talks about the evolution of the territorial state system. Okay, so the modern state, I mean the modern nation state believed, um, it is the product of the Treaty of Westphalia of 1648 here. So the Treaty of Westphalia is nothing but a series of peace treaties. These are the peace treaties that has been signed, where it has ended the 30 years war and the 80 war, 80 years war here. Okay. So that is what it is called as a product of Westphalia Treaty here of 1688. And here, from where you see the concept of sovereignty, state sovereignty, that there is no actor is above the state, has been established after this. Okay. So even today, if we see, the state remains as a main primary actor in the international politics. There is no, if there is no state, there is no actor. If there is no state, there is no international community. Okay. So with that state, if you see, it is because the people are living in the territory and they are being obedient to the state authority, right? The second is what? The state is giving us what? The defense with the external war. It is giving us the protection. It is having the military on the boundaries here or with the internal conflicts here. So the state is also looking at what? The welfare, the security of the people here, of the population here. That is what it plays a very key role in the world affairs here. So with the crisis of sovereignty, if we say, since the 1648, we can see a lot of history of interactions among the state here. And today the states function as what? Environmentally massively transformed, distorted by the globalization. Now, what is globalization here? Globalization is a very multidimensional concept. So as soon the economy has been globalized. The world has opened its door for you to come and do the economy, for the trade, welfare. So it has made a way for the globalization. Every country is open to do their trade and economy here. So this is nothing but the growth of political, economic, social, cultural relations among the nations across the borders here. So, so with the perspective, yeah, if we see with the nation states, these nation states has faced lot of challenges with the process of globalizations here, because where the state sovereignty under the impact of globalization has been delegated here. Okay, so all over the world, there was a welfare state that is giving way for what? A minimal state, a small state here that has to function under the maintenance of what? The law and order and the security of its citizens here. So whereas what has happened with the process of globalization here, this was withdrawing its social, it was taking away its social responsibilities in the process of globalization here. So the states were losing their right to make policies where those policies which the people had been needed here. So there was an increase in the global market that has a primary determinant of the economic and the social priorities we can see. At the same time, this globalization was also not always reduce the state capacity as well. And the non-state actors, after the realization of the specific interest, they were directly resulting in, maybe they were directly resulting in the war or the peace here. So the governments here, they were the primary arbiters here. Okay, so therefore we see with the growing importance of the non-state actors in increasing interdependence of the domestic and the international politics as well, that is making a challenge to the state supremacy here as well. Okay, so next we see the non-state actors here. So now what is non-state actors? That are nothing but a very big range of groups, associations, organizations here. Okay. So these are the non-sovereign entities. They have a particular scope. Okay. And a purpose to do for what purpose they have been. And if we see after the end of World War II, non-state actors has been expanding their role, and their role has been blurring the nation states. And also, what these non-state actors includes the UN, the League of Nations, Amnesty International, World Wildlife Fund. These are the prominent examples we can see. And there are like Asian, SAARC, EU. These are what the groups here. And yeah, one of the non-state actor we see is the international organization or the intergovernmental organizations, which is called as the IGOs. These IGOs, they differ with their goals as well, and basis upon their scope as well, they are classified as few. For example, we are having global membership broad purpose. In the broad purpose, we are having the UNO, World Trade Organization. In the global narrow purpose, for the narrow, which means for the small, we are having the IMF and the Universal Postal Union. For the limited purpose, in the broad purpose, we see the African Union, next is the Commonwealth of Nations. In the limited purpose, within the narrow purpose, limited membership, it is having the limited membership. That where we are having what? That where we are having a Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, which means as OPEC. So these IGOs are considered as a crucial actors in the international relations because of their policies, their behavior, how they are having an impact on the foreign policy. Okay, most oftenly if we see the government, the national government, they give importance to this IGs in their foreign policy consideration. So then the next is the international non-governmental organizations. Under that we are having the interstate non-governmental governmental organizations. These are what? These are the private self-governing, these are the voluntary non-profit international organizations. Okay. These INGOs can be categorized into two types based upon the religion. Next is the economic. Okay. So these include what? These include all these religious charities, the political activities, and the academic research communities, and even also the terrorist groups here. Okay. So the next is the intranational actors. So what is intranational actors here are, these are the refers to the political movements, national liberation movements, activities of the ethnic, racial, religious, or some kind of ideological minority group who is having their own ideology here. So during the Cold War period, the US and the Soviet Union, they gave a support to what violent groups in the national liberation struggles like the PLO or the ANC and the Southwest African People's Organization. These are the main, what say, the examples of the non-state actors we can see. So next we are having the multinational corporations. Under the multinational corporations, if we see, these MNCs are the business organizations. We see in the present day in our country as well, there are a lot of multinational corporations. So these are the business organizations which are meant for the profit here. They have their ownership, their management, production, sales activities, everything among the other nations. They do it with the among other nations here. So there are like having a, see, now my country in the US, there is a company that is called as the host country. That country is the owner of one company, and where that USA is operating with that company, it has branches in India or in other Europe, you can see. Um, it will this is how a MNC works here with their host countries. So we are having, for example, say Coca-Cola, Sony, Honda, Toyota, McDonald's, Nike. Okay. So these MNCs are spread across the several countries here. So the main objective of this MNC is the profit maximization. Okay. So, and then there is other non-state actors, and these are what? These are the political groups, organizations of the movements that use what? That use terror here as an instrument here. They try to achieve their political goals by terrorizing here. So this can also be the political right and the left-wing organizations as such. So one such example we can see on the USA Trade Center attack on September 11, 2001, USA. Secondly, and there was an international terrorist organization, they settled agenda for the politics here. So the impact of this non-state organizations, or they play a very the role they play and the influence they depend upon the political, economic, and the social context of a country here. Okay. So next is the increasing role of the non-state actors here. How are they increasing? They are increasing their role in setting up the international agendas. So within the international agenda, for example, if I say there is a OPEC, the petroleum economic countries here, that has been influencing in international politics from the early 1970s, where it decided to supply the oil or the petrol to the countries that has supported Israel in the Arab-Israel conflict of 1973 here. Okay. The next is, you can see how role here has been increasing with the serving as the instrument of government's foreign policy here. As these non-state actors are the transitional organizations, what do? They will be operated as a instrument of government foreign policy here. Okay. So they rely, all these international organizations, they rely on this non-state actors only, particularly the INGOs here. Okay. So next is the lobbyism activities, the main thing here. How are they lobbying the national governments and to make the decisions in their favor here? They lobby the governments, the nations to be in their favor here. Their duty is to do the lobby here. So how are they doing? They may cause some government's influence through the activities of MNCs and the transnational corporations, putting up some agendas through the IGOs. Okay. So next is there, they promote what? The economic interdependence. So with the increasing economic interdependence, less developed countries, they were depending on the foreign companies, because we need the economy, we need the job here, we need the employment. So these less developed countries were depending on the foreign companies, which means the MNCs, for what? For which purpose? For the technologies, for the capital, for the skills here. So they play a very important role in the international relations, uh, because their financial resources are very vast, and they, what they do? They are very rich. They are there for the profit maximization. They control and they operate here. Okay. For example, we are having what the IMF and the World Bank here, where nations will take help of them for their debts, for their loans here, etc., in managing their finances. Next is the attitudinal change here. So, as there is a global media that publicize and raise citizens' consciousness, their awareness about a lot of global or the regional problems, we can say these MNCs also have a new attitudes because they create what they try to create a new myths, which means the beliefs which are not true, and the symbols, the norms. Because why? If you are taking my, if you are, for example, a company is selling its product. Okay, if it is selling its product, what it want to do the business with the other country? What it will say, if you are taking my product, it is that much beneficial that it will grow you little fairer. That is how it is creating a myth here. So, um, with that, because why? Because they want to expand their businesses. So what people will do, okay, with this myth they'll start buying the products here because they are advantageous to them here. Okay, so with it is by by advertising this MNCs, what they affect, they will affect the popular activities, which means the people activity in the less developed countries here. Okay, so these are shaping the civil societies here. Okay, so this is what your sovereign state actors here are. And in this unit, we have got to know how traditionally this international relations deal with and how it is interacting among the independent sovereign states here. And this concept of state is very much important in the study of international relations is what we got to know. And there is a stage of international relations popularly known as the non-state actors. And this idea of nation state was a product of Treaty of Westphalia, we got to know. And this modern state system, they have basic components: territory, people, government, and sovereignty, we got to know. And at present there are a lot of and because of the emergence of non-state actors, which are the international organizations, international non-governmental organization, intra-governmental organization, and MNCs, we got to know how they are influencing and manipulating the domestic and the international policies of a state here. So um, it the state remains the primary actor even with the growing importance of the non-state actors. The state remains as a primary actor in the international system here. So this is what today's class is. Thank you so much.